Hello everybody, welcome back to AfroLivity. It's Jordan again. Today I'm going to be talking to you about omega-3s, why they're important, and the best ways of getting it into your diet. So before we get into this, let's actually look at what omega-3s actually are. So according to the Harvard School of Public Health, omega-3s are polyunsaturated fatty acids. What makes them special is that they are an integral part of cell membranes throughout the body and affect the function of the cell receptors in these membranes. They provide the starting point for making hormones that regulate blood clotting, contraction, and relaxation of artery walls and inflammation. They also bind to receptors in cells that regulate genetic function. Likely due to these effects, omega-3 fats have been shown to help prevent heart disease and stroke, may help control lupus, eczema, and rheumatoid arthritis, and may play protective roles in cancer and other conditions. The omega-3s essentially come in three usable forms within the human body. They are alpha-linolenic acid, eicosapentaenoic acid, and docosahexaenoic acid, all three of which are referred to as ALA, EPA, and DHA for short. Of these, EPA and DHA are the two most useful in the human body. We need them for cognitive growth and maintenance of the brain. And this is one of the reasons why it's found in the breast milk of mothers, because it gets passed down to their infants. It's also very important in fetal development, and DHA is found in most cell membranes, so the human brain, cerebral cortex, the skin, retina, and wherever. So these are very important fatty acids. So now that we know what they are, the next question is, well, what's the best way of getting them? Well, without even having to say anything, I'm sure most people watching this video now will instantly think either fish or its dreaded cousin, cod liver oil. Well, fish and fish oils are not actually the only forms of dietary omega-3. We can get omega-3 from flaxseed, hemp seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, and you can get it from the algae such as nori or wakame, which are commonly eaten in Japan, and these are the same sources that the fish get their omega-3 from. So if you, like me, are on a 100% plant-based diet or you're allergic to fish, there are plenty of ways of getting your omega-3. The next thing that's probably on people's minds is, yeah, but come on, fish is the only good source. These other ones, you're probably going to be deficient if you're on these other ones. Surely we should just stick to eating fish and oils, right? Well, there doesn't seem to be an internationally recognized sort of recommended daily amount for DHA or EPA, or even omega-3s in general, but from research, according to the World Health Organization, they recommend for pregnant and or breastfeeding women, so the people who require the most omega-3 because they're not only feeding themselves but they're also responsible for their infant, the recommendation is about 250 to 300 milligrams per day of DHA and EPA combined. But they do say that at least 200 milligrams of that has to be DHA. Going back to the three different types of omega-3 that are mainly found in the human body, you tend to find that the alpha-linolenic source is almost exclusively found in plant foods, whereas the EPA and the DHA forms are pretty much found in algae in small amounts and fish, but fish and fish oils are the most concentrated source of these acids if you're not taking supplements. This simple fact that fish contain more EPA and DHA than any other dietary source other than supplementation is sort of grounds for a lot of people to argue that fish are therefore the unequivocal, the total best source of omega-3 for anybody. However, if you look at what actually goes on when you consume ALA, the human body is actually capable of converting the shorter chain alpha-linolenic acid into these longer versions, so the EPA and the DHA, precisely the two which are the most biologically active and the ones that we really do need in our bodies. However, looking at the conversion rates in this study here, it does mention that only 6% of ALA is successfully converted to EPA, while 3.8% is converted to DHA. So these percentages are relatively low. However, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, so one of the world's largest and most influential peer-reviewed scientific journals in the world, has a study in which it compares the ALA, so the precursor, conversion rates within the bodies of fish eaters, meat eaters, vegetarians, and vegans. They actually found that substantial differences in the intakes and in sources of omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids existed between the dietary habit groups, but the differences in status were smaller than expected, possibly because the precursor to product ratio was greater in non-fish eaters than in fish eaters, potentially indicating increased estimated conversion of ALA. If intervention studies were to confirm these findings, it could have implications for fish requirements. So this is telling us that there is some evidence that people who have been vegan or vegetarian and do not consume fish at all could actually increase the amount of ALA that they convert in their bodies, which is a sensible sort of argument. If your body is not getting the DHA and EPA from its dietary requirements, then it's likely to spend more time converting the ALA that it receives into the necessary versions. However, let's actually put this to the test and look at how much ALA you would need to eat given those conversion rates of 6% and 3.8% on a plant-based diet in order to meet your recommended daily amounts of EPA and DHA. So let's take salmon for example, known for having some of the highest rates of omega-3 content. For a 3-ounce serving, so about 85 grams, you get about 630 to 1240 milligrams of DHA and 280 to 590 milligrams of EPA. So in both categories you are well over the minimum that you need for the day if you are a pregnant or breastfeeding woman, so the average population will need a little less than that, but being on the safe side, you are above the minimum requirements on the World Health Organization. Now, if we take a source that a vegan could have, so 1 tablespoon of flaxseed oil, about 7 grams or 15 milliliters, you get 7,260 milligrams of ALA, and using the conversion rates we discussed earlier, so 6% for EPA and 3.8 for DHA, we find that you get 276 milligrams of DHA and 436 milligrams of EPA. So, in both cases, you are above the recommended daily amount set by the World Health Organization at the maximum. That's its maximum limit, for the pregnant women. So, in both cases, for the salmon and the flax oil, you are well above your daily recommended minimum for omega-3s. So, there's absolutely nothing to worry about there. You can still meet your omega-3 needs without touching oil. So, for example, you can get about just over 2 tablespoons of flaxseed completely ground, or about an ounce of chia seeds. You can sprinkle that on oats, on your favorite sort of dessert, whatever you like eating, and those will help you exceed your DHA and EPA needs with no trouble at all. And you don't just have to eat just chia or just flax in order to get your needs. If you can eat nuts, you can have walnuts. If you like soy, you can have soybeans. Algae has actually got DHA and EPA within it, so there's no need to restrict yourself to just one source to get your omega-3s. Mix and match, but make sure that with your mixing and matching, that in total you are above that minimum level. One thing to note about the conversion of ALA to EPA and DHA is that you should avoid consuming a lot of omega-6. It turns out that these omega-6 fatty acids, if consumed in a very large amount, can actually reduce the conversion rate of ALA to either DPA or DHA by between 40 and 50%. And given that conversion rates are not that high to begin with, you really don't want to be putting yourself in the position of reducing the amount that your body can convert. Ideally, the ratio of your intake of omega-6 to omega-3 should be in a region of either 1:1 or 4:1. So, in the West, the average is about 15:1. The main culprit for that is the high amount of fried foods, particularly foods fried in vegetable oils. For example, corn oil has a ratio of 46:1, and sunflower oil, which is probably one of the most commonly used cooking oils, has got pretty much no omega-3 in it. Now, according to this study, it is true that the DHA and EPA levels in the blood plasma are high in fish eaters compared to all other non-fish eaters. However, the DHA levels of vegans were noted to not actually be lower than those of meat-eating omnivores. And when the vegans were given a DHA supplement, it showed a 54.8 8% increase in their baseline omega-3 mean index. And if the idea of having a lower amount of DHA and EPA within the blood plasma is something that makes you uncomfortable, looking at this study done here, we can see that, quote, as measured by delivery of DHA to both plasma and erythrocytes, fish and algal oil capsules were equivalent. Both regimens were generally well tolerated. These results indicate that algal oil DHA capsules and cooked salmon appear to be bioequivalent in providing DHA to plasma and red blood cells, and accordingly, that algal oil DHA capsules represent a safe and convenient source of non-fish derived DHA. And furthermore, according to the website for the National Institutes of Health in the US, it claims that a threshold effect might exist, above which increased omega-3 intake offers little or no additional cardiovascular benefit. For example, the authors of a review prepared by the Tufts Medical Center Evidence-Based Practice Center on the effects of EPA and DHA on mortality concluded that the mean intakes of up to 200 milligrams per day are associated with a reduced risk of cardiovascular or sudden cardiac death, but higher intakes do not reduce the risk any further. So by now I hope that the evidence has convinced you that there's no real advantage to consuming fish over consuming your omega-3s from plant-based sources, and if you're still sort of unsure or uneasy about the conversion, you can buy a vegan supplement very cheaply that will give you more than the recommended amount of about 200 to 300 milligrams of your EPA and DHA in total. So the options are there, and there is absolutely nothing to worry about if you're a vegetarian or if you're on a plant-based diet. Conversely, if you are somebody who eats fish, then there's actually more cause for concern. From an environmental perspective, we could have no more fish in our oceans by the year 2048 due to the catastrophic amount of overfishing that we are seeing in the world at the moment, as this extrapolated graph from the New York Times shows. There's also a very major problem of industrial poisons within fish. So, whether they are PCBs, DDT, Dioxin, Mercury, all of those can be found within fish due to problems with bioaccumulation of industrial waste over the years through the food chain and furthermore. So when you consume those foods, you are consuming those harmful products. And according to the study that looks at the effects of methyl mercury on the human body, it says, quote, there is a controversy about the risks and benefits of consuming fish. Fish consumption provides nutrients, some of which are essential for brain growth and development. All fish, however, contain methylmercury, a known neurotoxin. The toxic effect of methylmercury seems most damaging during brain development, and thus prenatal exposure is of greatest concern. This is why many different dietetics associations across the world recommend that women who are pregnant or are breastfeeding avoid fish of all kinds to prevent passing down these potentially harmful metals and or persistent organic pollutants to their child. Furthermore, it is known that methylmercury can actually increase your risk of developing coronary heart disease. And considering the fact that omega-3s are a protective measure against this, if you're taking in your omega-3s from fish, the mercury could basically just negate all of the benefits you're supposed to be getting from the omega-3. And again, as the study shows here from the Institute of Toxicological Chemistry in Serbia, Montenegro, which has basically simulated the impact of a fish-based diet on the human body, it says that, quote, if the recommended omega-3 intake would be based on fish consumption as the only extra source, the majority of the study population would exceed the proposed health-based guidance values for dioxins and dioxin-like substances. Now, dioxin is, again, another toxin. It acts as an endocrine disruptor, which basically means that it interferes with your endocrine or hormonal system. Your hormonal system is important because it controls how the hormones in your body are released and recycled and the rest of it. Endocrine disruptors have been linked with the development of cancers, the reduced development of fetuses, and much more. So there's a lot of compelling evidence that says that you should really be focusing on getting your omega-3s from either your flax, your chia, your walnuts, or to take a vegan, so algal DHA or EPA supplement, because while fish does contain those same necessary fatty acids, people who consume them put themselves at a major health risk by doing so. And with the industrialization and overfishing seen around the world nowadays, the business could end up ruining the world's ecosystem. So, in conclusion, there is nothing to worry about if you are on a plant-based diet and you want to get omega-3s. And given both sides of the argument, you could say that, sure, we've got to convert our ALA into EPA and DHA, and it's not pre-formed like it is in fish, or we've got to buy a supplement, but it's a small price to pay when it means we avoid having to take in all the organic pollutants within fish, and it also means that we can prevent the industry from destroying our oceans anymore. So I think it's a win-win scenario. What do you think? I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. Keep taking your omega-3s, great for your brain, great for your heart, great for your soul. So I'll see you next time, and bless up.